Welcome everyone to our mobile advertising and mobile media panel. Everyone hear me all right? I have an emergency mic, if not, so just let me know. Okay, on the panel today, I have with me Roy Barghouti, who works as a senior manager in Mindshare. And
hello, everyone.
Yes, clap for the media agency. And further down, we have Fayez Abu Awad, who's the EVP of Boost Communications. I just want to make a reference to Con O'Donnell's presentation, if any of you were in the room for that, mentioning the sucky agencies. I guess myself and Roy will have to respond to that. But I would like to agree with a lot of the points that he made. He mentioned that a lot of startups that we're seeing at the moment haven't got any access to agencies. I've spoken to quite a few, so I'd like to say if there are any more startups that I haven't seen today, we're very open. I'm at OPZ1. Please do come say hello. We have very interesting audiences there. I think one of the things we need to start talking about, I've seen a lot over the last few days. If there's anyone from STC in the room, please raise your hand. Thank you very much for being here and Integral's stats on Developer Day. Phenomenal mobile stats there in Saudi and everywhere else. I was on an online travel panel and we're seeing a lot of mobile interaction there. Even people are checking out, and then recently with the Market VIP's presentation, about 25% of their customers are using mobile. So we know it's very, very important. I think what we've got to look at now is the mobile is a device of convergence. So, why, the question is going to be to our panelists, why aren't we seeing more mobile advertising? Have the business models changed? What do you think, Roy?
Well, with any new medium, you'd expect things to take up, go very slow. People still have the time to put their heads around digital or display. Search is growing phenomenally. So we'd expect mobile to grow at a very slow pace.
Very slow pace, that's interesting. Fayez, what do you have to say about that?
I think it's a culture issue. The agencies, the brands, the infrastructure.
Can you speak up a bit? Do you want the emergency mic?
No, is this good?
Yeah.
I just have to get used to this big bulb in front of my mouth. Okay, so it's a culture thing. Many of the brands have not made the mind shift that is needed to go to mobile. At a previous event I was participating in, I asked the audience to stand up and do some aerobics before I started talking to them, and they were not comfortable. And I highlighted, how a culture from Japan would find this acceptable, but our culture in here is not. And the audience, the users, the subscribers themselves, Alex, are actually there in their mind, in their practices. They've adopted, they've embraced the mobile culture. While I believe we still lag on the operator side, a little bit on the agency side, although we're brothers in arms in trying to convince the brands, the real effectual players in this field, to actually embrace mobile. Many who have actually taken a chance have come back for repeat business. They've increased their budget spend allocated to mobile. But it's just a little bit of last mile push that we have to go together, and we're there.
Okay. I might challenge you a bit there, because as we see from the augmented reality presentation, which I think is phenomenal, if we remember, one of the parts was some playing music and playing videos, right? And I just wanted to reference Angami, who we heard had an investment from MEVP, so they're like a music player. There's a lot of interesting collaborations, different parts of media that can come on board with spaces that perhaps, who's going to own that? I don't think that media agencies can own this virtual space, right? Perhaps the new mobile media and advertising model is done by the handset manufacturers, by these software companies. Don't you think that we're not seeing enough mobile media because it's not a good business model for the media agencies in the region?
Oh boy, I think it would be adding a level of complexity I would rather not think about if we were to leave advertising to the non-advertising professionals. We've already seen operators try and fail in that field in several areas. And I don't believe that is really a path to go.
Can you speak a bit louder?
I think it's funny in an area where we have such high penetration. I don't know if Con is around. We have high penetration of mobile connectivity. We have such a pervasiveness of high-end devices that we still wait for our signals from the motherships in Europe or in the US to think about what we need to do in mobile. We're actually at a better position than many of the markets in the US, where the coverage is not complete, or in Europe, where the devices are controlled by the operators, to actually introduce something new. And I think it's an opportunity for everybody to show that creative side. But what is missing is probably education about the capabilities, what's new, and what can be done. And I think Qualcomm is doing a great job in that, in actually sharing with us in this part of the world, how far we can go with mobile. We just need to embrace it.
Okay, let me ask Roy then, from Mindshare's perspective, are you going to your clients with anything like AR? Are they asking for stuff like that? Why? I haven't interacted with anything. Why?
Well, clients will always ask for something innovative. I mean, AR is just one of them. But one thing that people actually look at, and clients look at, is if you want to develop something on AR, which is pretty much good, you're going to have to pay over like $25,000. Now that comes out of our media budget and their overall marketing budget. So to them, even with the education, they would rather spend it on media in terms of buying and allocating space, or on social media, rather than on something that is activation at a given event or
okay, but did we not hear also from Don that in fact we need to start thinking about advertising leading to transactions and sales? So what you're saying is very much clients are looking for branding and awareness and top-line opportunities, but he did suggest that a lot of the firms out there are looking for ROI in terms of how many sales and acquisitions they can do. So, let's look at the customer journey of having your mobile in the store, right? Or even preparing to go and purchase. Again, mobile is a device of convergence. The operators may integrate billing into their, do you not see this as a phenomenal opportunity that we need to get in now, or what?
At the risk of sounding schizophrenic or with multiple personality disorder, I advocate baby steps. So yes, I understand why a brand wouldn't fork $25,000 for such a project from the get-go, but they would actually use the SMS, the workhorse of mobile marketing. They can improve so much just by building on the practices they've already embraced, adding QR codes to their existing offline mix. To get to your question, there is a lot the operators can do, especially in the field of sponsored connectivity. And that is definitely a branding rather than a tactical activity. But if you want to go to the bottom line and look for actual sales, SMS has been used effectively and can be reused and improved using mobile web. But again, we should not be trapped in the mindset that just because in the US they have not been able to achieve more than 1% of their budgets allocated to mobile, that we will end up in the same position. In the US, by the way, I was exposed to a recent statistic by Monitor Group. The share of time spent on the mobile medium out of the total media in the US is 23%. So 23% of time spent in engaging this device, and then you get only 1% of your ad spend. There's definitely a discrepancy there, but we don't have to go through that. But we just have to start somewhere and start from the confident first steps of what has been tried and tested.
Roy, I think this is quite an interesting question because you will have the stats here. What is your view on perhaps saying cutting the marketing budget from maybe social media and putting it into mobile, right? So that we can not just get the awareness, but potentially the transaction. Would you be happy to do that?
Not with social media, but I would go after the magazines. I would try to shift the budget from the actual printed physical copy of the magazine onto digital. Obviously, magazines on the iPad and so on and so forth, but initially from the magazines. And to start off with, I mean, whenever you're setting groundwork, it's always related to some form of data. Data, obviously, it's always a recurring topic that data is not there. Data, where do you get it from? You can get it from surveys, from this, that, and the other. Some publishers do data. But I mean, how concrete is that data? I was doing something 3 days ago, and I wanted to know what's the smartphone penetration in the UAE. Simple question. 4 different surveys, 4 different percentages. Now, that's fine if it's 10%, give or take. But I mean, the difference was 25%. I'm not going to go to a client and tell them, hey, some say this, some say that.
You're totally right. There is a well-known issue of data. But I like your point about the transition from print. I was talking to some people that were in Riyadh just last week, and they said they saw QR codes all over the place. And if any of you were in the, I think it was Osama Nato's presentation, showing that there are QR codes on the street addresses, which I think is very, very interesting. Also, people are apparently reading newspapers, scanning the QR code, and then using it as a bookmark to read later on. So, you know, a lot of people probably think QR codes are very cliche, but they're being used in very innovative ways. I think there's, we know, you know as well, there's a huge reliance on print, especially in the GCC. Perhaps this is one way of making people interact more, and as you say, maybe collecting that data, right? So isn't there a way where I can put a piece of content in print that somebody can interact with, and you can measure how many interactions are going on there?
You probably could. Looking at, I mean, the broader picture, more of an aerial view, I know this is going to sound cliche, but telcos really got to come on board. It's no joke anymore. If we're going to embrace mobile is going to be large. The telcos have to come on board. They have the data, and we are willing to pay for it.
Okay, what do you think, Clive?
I totally agree. However, I think that if the telcos themselves aren't able to use the data they have, I doubt that they will be sharing it anytime soon. QR codes, I think it's all about the right partner. If you come to me, I'm willing to give you a free QR code for all of your print ads, for any of your major brands, for a month for free to test. And I will have 2 goals. One is to, of course, convert to a higher level of mobile advertising engagement, but also to show you the real effect or the real viewership that you can measure by combining mobile and offline. This is an area that's not really in focus, but I think it's worthy of more attention. So by adding a mobile activation to offline, you can actually marry the two and get more data and more confidence in what you're doing. Imagine if you have to buy 1,000 billboard sites in a country, and you can add a very distinctive QR code to each one of them. Then you can, next year, you don't have to buy all 1,000, just buy the ones that were engaged the most. But that's a different story, maybe altogether.
Okay, I'd like to also get your views on one of my theories, which I wrote about earlier based on the stats that I received from Integral. So I think, and this is a bold statement, that we need to stop everything we're doing on desktop, and we need to purely design for mobile and tablet, and not just the devices. You know, we don't want to be sitting here talking about, okay, which platform, you know, which app, and can I get the stats on who's using Apple and everything else, right? Why don't we design for the mobile user? So I saw a very interesting demo by Nokia. They played a film on a phone, and then they paused it, and they continued where they left off on a tablet. So I'm imagining, you know, women who are shopping, they have one hand free, they're using their mobile, they're interacting with the shelf or the product, and then when they get home, they're using their tablet with both hands. They put either the baby to sleep or the shopping bags down, they continue on there. Do you think that I'm, you know, wishing for too much, or would you agree with me with the no spending on desktop, straight into mobile?
I should say no. No, I mean, I don't look at desktop and mobile specific per se. I just look at the overall journey that the user has to go through. So be it, even has to be from print to TV to mobile to desktop, it really doesn't matter. Just in terms of measuring it in the stats and the data related to it, if I can have one place where I can access that data to find out where it's optimum for the user journey to flow through, It's perfect.
Okay. Tell us about a bit about your experiences with Boost Communications, because I know we met each other a year or a year and a half ago, and you had a particular product which was making it easier, and you've actually kind of verged into maybe the media sector more rather than the platform. Could you explain a bit about that?
Are you talking about Mobisite 123?
Yes, that's the one.
Well, at Boost, we believe that mobile advertising should be available to everybody. With the advent of mobile ad networks, it's very easy to go and determine your segmentation and buy media. But the problem has always been of where do you want that campaign to land? So that's one part of the puzzle. The other part of the puzzle is who develop the banners. So we tackled the first part and we're way towards the second. And by enabling a quick, professional mobile website development platform accessible from the web, we're opening the development to everybody, to the masses. If you can find, the other day I was contacted by a colleague of mine from school, working for an instant messaging company, and he has 50 million page impressions from Saudi Arabia, and he doesn't know what to do with it. Be there. I mean, there is a business model for you to actually just be there for your mobile audience while they're actually practicing, while they're actually enjoying their mobile experience. Be there, support it, offer your product, offer your service, offer an incentive, and you'd be amazed at the success rate. By the way, I've been working in mobile web advertising since the end of 2006. And if there's one thing I would like to stress about mobile web advertising in this part of the world, is that its performance is staggeringly above that of the average globally. Our people are very engaged with their mobile devices. They really love their mobile. It's very personal, it's always on, it's on them, it's a status symbol. It's a social medium, de facto social medium, and that has translated to an amazing performance on the mobile platform. The record so far is 17.6% click-through rate, although I don't use that number anymore. It's important, but if you look at it in combination with how many times the campaign has been shared on social media, via SMS, via email, how many people have actually clicked to call the call center, how many people actually viewed a photo gallery, asked for more information. The CRM on its own is staggering. The potential for CRM is huge, and that's where we really need to start focusing. Mobile advertising is not only for the big brands, it can complement all SMS campaigns. It should be easy for you to get a QR code to attach to the campaign and use and deploy, and you get a URL, you can use Bitly to get different referrals and just track it all together from a single place. Okay. That takes us to data, which is another nightmare.
Yes. Okay, I just want to ask one final question before we go to the audience. I know we're overrunning. The biggest use of mobile for me is to find out information when I'm on the go. Again, I'm going to quote Integral. Please, somebody correct me if I'm wrong. I think they said 36% of the mobile users are actually looking for local information. And this is why I love things like Layer and Wikitude. I'm often around in Dubai. I want to see what's next to me. We've got so much restaurants, everything else, but I need to know, I need to do a quick search. I don't want to use Google necessarily. I'd like to see some things layered on top of me, right? So when we're talking about mobile search and we're talking about adding things into, some virtual reality, is that media? Is that media for you, or can you buy that for a client? How would that work? Or would it be more a case of you going to clients and saying, right, you have a restaurant, you're advertising here, here, and here, now you need to make it pop up in this extra layer. Could you explain how that might work?
Any space would be considered as media. Any open space that you can put a message on or interact with or so on could be considered as media. And you can go to a client. Obviously, the model of how we remunerate ourselves would differ, but it's something we could definitely get into and do. Okay. And it would be considered as media.
So you're going to be having some talks with Qualcomm after this panel?
I'm here, yeah.
Okay. Anything you want to add to that, Faiz?
Yeah, I'm afraid that's out of my area of
Okay.
specialty. Sorry.
All right. Okay, any questions from the audience? And I have a mic here if we need to distribute it. None? Yes.
Click-through rate from mobile?
Who, me? No, of course I can't, because I'm only exposed to a subset of the space. But from what I've seen for the brands that I've served, I've 2.5 times multiple is fair.
Do you have a higher click-through rate for some industries more than others?
No, but there are some rules of thumb. I don't know if you're interested, but if it depends on the clarity of the message, the incentive you create, and how much of the power of segmentation and targeting in mobile you actually use. And I always go back to the basics, segmentation, targeting, and positioning. In mobile, you can communicate with the Anglophones in English, with the Francophones in French, and with the Arabic-speaking in Arabic without actually just having to switch languages. You can use the device as a segmentation parameter, so high-end versus low-end, the context of what you're doing, and the better you actually zoom in on your audience, the higher the return on investment is going to be for you. Yes.
Okay. Any other questions?
Hi, Faiz. Unfortunately, we're going back to CTR, just like what happened in the past for display. So, as we all remember, when display started, the CTR was so high. Same thing is happening now for mobile. What other KPIs or what other performance measurement can we use other than CTR to measure the engagement in mobile?
I use in my campaigns, I use the actual engagement. So how many people actually tweeted about it from my platform, how many people actually decided to like the product from my platform, how many SMSs were sent, how many emails were sent, how many forms were filled,
So other
how many
actions.
downloads were made. Yes.
Social sharing, obviously you have your KPIs of how many tweets, what are they talking about, is it positive, is it negative, how many likes you got, and so on and so forth. But I mean, performance will always be an integral part of mobile. And eventually, CPLs will play a part. It all depends on the objective of your campaign. Sometimes you have a multitude of objectives, so they want brand, but they want performance on the side, so you run them in parallel, or you run them flighting, or whatever it is. But performance will always be an integral part of mobile, mainly because of its ubiquity and that you can carry it anywhere that you go.
There's also cost per lead and many other dimensions that you can use depending on whether it's a branding activity or a tactical activity. If you want to just drive foot traffic to a store and you build your campaign in a proper way, you will get evidence of the impact of the campaign from the audience who actually go and ask for that coupon or for that special or for whatever incentive you've actually created for them to go to the store. But if you're running a branding campaign, maybe you should even be looking at click-through rate, and you should be looking at what medium you're actually using to push your message. If you're using a high-end medium, a reputable medium, something that does not interfere with your brand but complements it, then you've already gained a branding value for your client without actually having to click on anything.
Good point. Any other questions? Okay, one last one.
Opt-in, I assume you know what opt-in is. Give me your point of view on that.
I mean, with everything that's going on in mobile, I mean, the privacy concerns, opting in, opting out, I am totally for opting in. At the end of the day, you don't want to bother anyone who doesn't want any kind of advertising to go to them. Regularly, I mean, I live in Dubai, and I constantly get a barrage of messages, sometimes 3, 4 a day, all performance-based, so it's sales, it's tactical. But I've never opted in, so I still get those messages, and it's still annoying. So if there's that model of opting in, yes, I want to know that I opted in and take responsibility to see the ad.
From an advertiser's point of view, from a media perspective, does that make more sense for you when you go and you pitch that kind of thing to your client?
Of course it does.
But what about when you opt in, you miss a big portion of the population that could be interested if there is a relevant message that gets in.
Sure, I mean, this is where the targeting comes into place. Clients are always looking for refined targeting. So, I mean, we have some of our strategic clients, they would say, for example, come back to us with a proposal, and we do. They're like, how can we refine this further and further and further? So that would cater perfectly. It doesn't matter if you're missing out on an audience who doesn't want advertising, because initially they don't want advertising. And you're catering to those who do. So you're not wasting your money anywhere.
But with bulk SMS, you get, definitely you get a sort of a good response rate, even with bulk, for example.
I mean, yeah, okay, you can get whatever it is, but at the end of the day, why would you want to annoy somebody who doesn't want advertising?
That's a good question, actually. I suppose it's also down to quality of leads.
Your brand, I mean, yeah.
I mean, people could respond, but then you might have the question on, are they just going to be a one-time customer? Are they going to be a lifetime value customer? I don't know how many people are doing SMS campaigns. Or
Quite
what
a
type
few,
of...
I'm getting them all.
Yeah.
It's also about the advertising mix, if I may. There are other ways of reaching people who may be interested but have not actually declared interest in receiving a message from you directly. So, you just have to remember, the less intrusive you are, the less erosion you will create in the brand image in the mind of a user. Maybe quite a few of you have actually experienced what I've experienced of having an SMS come in at 2 a.m. trying to sell me God knows what. And if anything, that's a negative advertising. That's actually eroding the equity I have in my mind for that brand. And I may not even, not only would I not act on it, but I would stay away from it and I would complain about it. So just use another medium. You don't have to stick to mobile for everything. I mean, the beauty of mobile is that it can fit nicely within the advertising mix. And that's how we should use it.
Interesting. Okay, I think 8 more minutes. Wow, what will we possibly fill it with? Okay, so I guess we can take some more questions, if anyone has any. Or we could just
We have
have
somebody in the back.
someone right in the back.
Yeah, this is Omar Alayoun from Brick to Click. We are a company that are focused on QR codes market applications. One more question about beyond the performance and analytics. What is your advice for increasing the value of the marketing of the mobile advertising? The value. This is my question from your experience.
Sorry, come again. What's the...
How can we increase the value of the mobile advertising ecosystem?
What budget spend?
Targeting options.
No, I mean the value of the content, the idea, the creative behind the campaign. From your experience, how can we increase the creative idea?
How can you create? Okay, so
The creative idea of the QR code.
Yeah, the value. How can we increase the value? Because everything relates to the value at the end.
Correct, yeah. I mean, as a media agency, I mean, we just don't look at QR codes initially per se. Now, if QR codes fit in perfectly with the story we're trying to tell, then yes, the values automatically increase. It just goes normally with the entire campaign, but it also goes with whatever you're using as a medium. So that's the way you actually add value for your QR code.
Yes, so you mean the relevancy of the campaign idea with the targeting. That's what your answer is.
It's an overall thing. We just look at the overall thing. Never. The important thing about media agencies is that they have to remain media agnostic. You can't just say, I want to go for TV and print only. You want to say your story the best way you know how. This is how you drive value for your clients.
but what about, sorry to add in there, because I work actually on the creative side, so perhaps there's an opportunity to add value to the creative by taking something that would normally sit on TV and then sticking it in the mobile arena, right? So having a little TVC type piece of content pop up on your water bottle if you wanted it, or in store or somewhere else, that might enhance the ability to push you further to purchase, let's say, right? So we know that the stats show, millions of hours of YouTube video is consumed here, many of it on mobile. Perhaps we're not doing enough there to create for that and then distribute it amongst other sections which we can interact with mobile. What do you say to that? Agree.
I think we have a toolbox, and in it there are many media to use. And what we're trying to do is tell a story on behalf of our clients, and the story has to be consistent with the values that the brand wants to convey to the audience. It has to be clear, and it has not to be conflicting because of the medium that you're using. And there is always, in my opinion, there's always a good fit for an implementation of mobile advertising. But you can't just force everything to QR code. This is just one of the tools that you have within the subset of tools that you have for mobile marketing.
Roy, can I ask you your views on channel conflict? So often we find, some clients are reluctant to use digital as a sales channel because they believe it's taking away from their other retail channels, and there are conflicts that they can't, whatever they want to do with those. Do you think that clients are seeing mobile as a potential channel conflict? And if so, is there a way to resolve that?
No, they're not going to see. Clients who actually take into consideration the agencies and listen to their agencies would, again, look at it from a holistic perspective. So mobile as a channel, yes, it's innovative, it's great, it's new, it's in.
But what if people started buying through their mobile and not in the shops where that brand is actually sold?
Well, of course,
Mission accomplished.
The costs go down.
Mission accomplished.
I saw something in Korea, South Korea, I think it's LED screens, and then you have all your products on, and you just use your phone, scan, go to the checkout, all your products are there, and you just buy it on your mobile phone.
And
Google Wallet.
That's the way that I would like to purchase this to go. So.
Yeah, I'd like to purchase on my mobile. I can't be bothered carrying cash over.
Groceries would be a lot more fun, definitely, yes.
Okay. Anyone else with any questions? No? Okay, all right, well, let's conclude that final panel on mobile media and advertising. Thank you very much, panelists.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Roy.